So today, we're not just looking at a warlord from history, we're going to look at a 16th century figure through a totally modern lens. A man who didn't just conquer lands, but absolutely shattered the systems that defined his world. This is the story of Oda Nobunaga, who might just be the ultimate disruptor.
Just imagine this for a second. What if the whole Silicon Valley mindset, that obsessive drive to innovate, to break things, to rewrite all the rules, what if that wasn't born in some garage in California, but in a feudal Japanese castle over 400 years ago? It sounds like science fiction, right? But the man we're talking about today, well, he makes a pretty convincing case that it's a historical fact.
For centuries, Nobunaga has been boxed in as this brutal warlord. A unifier, sure, but someone defined by the old feudal system, static, bound by tradition. But what if that's just the wrong word entirely? What if a better word is disruptor, someone dynamic, who looked at the old ways not as sacred but as bugs in the system? A visionary who wasn't just playing the game, he was changing the entire rulebook for everybody else. That's the Nobunaga we're going to get to know.
And we're not talking about some abstract force of history here. He was a real person who absolutely commanded a room. A Jesuit missionary named Louis Froisse actually met him, and he described this incredible presence. I mean, just picture this guy, intense, disciplined, a man who spoke with total clarity and was, quote, feared and revered to an extreme degree. He wasn't your average feudal lord. He was something completely new, and anyone who met him knew it instantly.
So how'd he pull it off? Let's open up his innovator's playbook, shall we? First up, and this is key, he didn't just conquer armies. He straight up hacked the entire economic operating system of Japan.
His whole economic revolution really came down to this one radical policy called Rakuichi Rakuza. It basically means free markets and open guilds. Now, in the 16th century, this was completely unthinkable. The economy was being strangled by these powerful trade guilds called daza. You can think of them as government-backed monopolies that controlled everything, who could sell what and where they could sell it. Nobunaga saw this ancient, closed system for what it was, a flaw he could exploit.
And the results were just night and day. I mean, look at this. On the left, that's Japan before Nobunaga. Commerce is just choked by tolls and guilds, a stagnant pond. But on the right, that's what happens after he rolls out his policies. It was like flipping a giant switch. He got rid of the toll booths, he broke the guild's power, and he turned his towns into these booming free market zones. And the result? A total explosion of trade, of wealth, of energy that he could tap into immediately. And this wasn't just one policy, It was a whole ecosystem of innovation working together. He built infrastructure, roads, bridges to speed up the flow of goods. He stabilized the money supply. He was essentially creating the venture capital for his massive startup, the unification of Japan. Every single coin that flowed through those new free markets went directly into funding the guns, the soldiers, and the infrastructure of the most powerful military machine Japan had ever seen. So, that powerful economic engine funded his second great play, a complete technological revolution in warfare. And there's no better example of this than the decisive Battle of Nagashino in 1575. Okay, picture the scene. On one side, you've got the Takeda clan, the old guard. These guys are the absolute peak of samurai tradition. Their cavalry was the stuff of legends, the most feared fighting force in all of Japan. And on the other side, Nobunaga's new wave. See, he wasn't betting on tradition, he was betting on technology, the arquebus, an early musket, and on scalability. He realized that a master swordsman takes decades to train, but a guy with a musket, you can train him in a few weeks. And he didn't just dabble with this new tech. No way. He went all in. He brought 3,000 musketeers to this one battle. 3,000. You have to understand, at the time, that number was just staggering. It was a declaration. He was saying, loud and clear, that the age of the lone samurai hero was over. The age of massed, disciplined, tech-driven war had just begun. But here's the really brilliant part. It wasn't just having the guns. It was the system he designed around them. He used a tactic that was totally revolutionary, volley fire. One rank would fire, kneel to reload, the second rank would fire, then the third. It created this continuous, horrifying wall of lead. The legendary Takeda cavalry charged, expecting to break his lines like they always did, and they were just mown down. Tradition ran headfirst into technology, and technology won, decisively. And his military disruption went even deeper. He blew up the aristocratic system by promoting guys based on pure talent, not their family name. His top general, Toyotomi Hideyoshi, literally started out as a peasant who carried his sandals. He created a professional standing army, separating soldiers from farmers so they could train all year round.
He even standardized equipment, like the length of spears, so his units fought like a single, deadly machine. He was building Japan's first modern army. But maybe his most complex, and honestly his most modern, innovation was in a field we would now call brand management and psychological warfare. He understood that real power wasn't just about what you could physically do, it was about what people believed you could do. He built one side of his brand with terrifying precision. He started calling himself the Demon King of the Sixth Heaven. Now look, this wasn't just some edgy nickname. It was a calculated message aimed straight at his biggest rivals, the incredibly powerful and wealthy Buddhist monasteries. He was declaring himself a force beyond their gods, beyond their protection. And he backed up that brand with acts of unbelievable brutality. In 1571, he surrounded the sacred Mount Hiei monastery, a center of political opposition, and he burned the entire complex to the ground. Sources say his army killed tens of thousands, sparing no one, not men, women, or children. It was pure terror, designed to send one simple message across Japan: resistance is impossible. He made sure everyone knew that the old rules of war and even religion just didn't apply to him. But then, and this is what is so wild, he cultivated a completely opposite brand identity at the exact same time. While his enemies were seeing a demon king, his allies and his followers were introduced to someone else entirely, the ultimate master of culture, taste, and beauty. And this is how he did it. This is so smart. He fundamentally changed the currency of power itself. For hundreds of years, a samurai's value was measured in land, in castles, in titles. Nobunaga disrupted all of that. He started collecting these priceless utensils for the tea ceremony and elevated them into a new kind of status symbol, a symbol that he alone controlled.
I mean, just think about the genius of that move. He made the permission to host a tea ceremony or the gift of a single, simple tea bowl a reward greater than a whole province. His best generals would fight to the death not for more land, but for a piece of pottery that he had personally authenticated. He had hacked the entire value system of the samurai class, turning art into an unbelievably sophisticated tool of political control. It was just brilliant.
So he rewrote the rules of economics, of warfare, of culture. He was on the absolute brink of total victory. But when you disrupt everything, you create very, very powerful enemies. And sometimes the system you're trying to build just isn't ready for the future you're trying to create. I mean, just look at how close he was. By 1582, he controlled the entire heart of Japan. His armies were winning everywhere. Unification wasn't a question of if anymore, it was just a matter of when. He was just relaxing at a temple in Kyoto, Honno-ji, getting ready for his final push. And then the unthinkable happened. One of his most trusted generals, a man named Akechi Mitsuhide, suddenly turned his army around and attacked him. Trapped, outnumbered, Nobunaga took his own life as the temple burned down around him. You know, his death wasn't just a political hit. You could argue it was the system's inevitable response. He was building a future so radical, so completely different from the world that existed, that the present itself just couldn't contain it. It snapped back. Real disruption often consumes the disruptor. There's this famous Japanese saying that sums up his legacy perfectly. Nobunaga is the one who pounds the rice to make the cake. He does the brutal, messy, foundational work. His successor, Hideyoshi, is the one who kneads the dough. And the final unifier, Ieyasu, well, he's the one who gets to sit down and eat the finished cake. Nobunaga was the disruptor who made the whole thing possible in the first place. Nobunaga's story really is all about destruction and creation on a massive scale. He had to tear down old structures, the guilds, the traditions, the armies, the value systems, so he could build something new. And that leaves us with a pretty powerful question, one that echoes from his time all the way to ours. In your own world, in your career, in your life, what old ideas are ready to be destroyed so that something new, something better can be created?